When I was 14, my family moved to our new house, which is a 3-story house. The ground floor was a parking lot, empty and had storage space. The first floor was a living room, dining room and 2 kitchens with a bathroom, and the top floor had the bedrooms. We didn't hire anyone to bless the house or have any religious altars set up because we all have different faiths. My brother and I are Christians and our parents are Buddhists. One of the bedrooms faced the top of the stairs and there's a wardrobe there, with sliding reflective glass, so it was really creepy. I wouldn't look at the wardrobe while I bolted back to my room. I always felt that there was something sinister in this house. I was around 16 or 17 when I felt the most paranormal activity in this house. Anyway, when I was around that age, I was bullied a lot in school and fell into depression that was untreated, and I felt suicidal a lot of the time. I was bullied at school, and this was a taboo to have mental health issues in Asia. One night there was suddenly a few stray dogs roaming our neighborhood. Weirdly, some were beautiful, expensive dogs. LOL. I was curious, so went to have a look by the first floor balcony while suddenly one of the dogs turned around and glared at me. Mind you, this was not in a slow motion, but the dog literally snapped and turned to glare at me, while it growled as if I was something evil to it. I was spooked, so I hid behind the curtains, and this scary dog would just stare at me from the street below. Another time was that I was making hot cocoa in the kitchen at night. My back was facing the stairs and walkway, and suddenly I felt like someone walked past me really quickly. My brother loved to shower in the guest bathroom due to good water pressure, so I thought that was him. Next morning I asked if he was there, and he said no. I asked my mom and she said no either, which was really strange because I felt a gust of wind as if someone was walking past me at home in the kitchen. It spooked me that it may be something else, which, as I mentioned, the house felt sinister. This was the scariest thing that happened to me in this house. As a teenager, we all loved to go to bed late, so teenage me stayed up. I put down my phone at 2:44 a.m. I remember this clear as day because it was that scary. I fell asleep and I woke up suddenly with a jolt. I sat up and saw that my bed was literally shaking. I looked around and thought it was an earthquake. Nope, just my bed. I looked at my water bottle on my desk and it was calm, no movement. Terrified, I quickly laid back down and covered myself with my blanket while I prayed to God. For what felt like ages later, even though it was probably just a few minutes, it stopped. I quickly looked at my phone, and the time was 3:05 a.m. Again, I asked my family if anyone felt an earthquake the next morning. They looked at me puzzled, and I honestly think they thought I was going crazy. This was one of the scariest moments I've ever felt in this house. I know 3 a.m. is the devil's hour, and this happened at the time I felt most faithless and broken, so there is definitely something there in my house, and it felt my brokenness. My dad went on a business trip to Turkey and bought some of those evil eye things, and he said that he was told to hang them in my living room to protect us from anything evil. They broke a couple years later. It just fell and broke. When I was around 7 years old, I shared a room with my younger sister. She got scared a lot at night and would wake up and go sleep in our parents' room. We both had a twin-size bed with the head up against the wall and nothing on either side of the bed. One night after my sister had gone into our parents' room, I felt someone tapping my shoulder. I can't explain why I knew it was something bad. Something about the force of the tapping, knowing I was a young girl. I pretended to be asleep and slowly pulled my blanket over my head. After a few seconds, I felt the tapping again. A little harder this time, but on the same part of the back of my shoulder. I peeked out from my blankets, and straight ahead of me, on the opposite wall, I saw a dim light. A large shadow of a man slowly walked by. I saw his shadow against the light. I remember his profile, how he had a large nose and strong jaw. He seemed to slowly move across the room and then disappeared. I was frozen. I couldn't move. Even after the light faded away and it was dark again, I sat there staring straight ahead in confusion, fear, I don't know. I was only 7, and even though I was well aware of spirits and the such, I had never had a spirit make physical contact with me. I hid under my blankets again, curled up and squeezed my eyes shut. I guess I fell asleep because when I woke up again it was morning. It's something I'll never forget. I can still picture him walking across my bedroom. Hands down one of the craziest ghost experiences I've had. Years later, I found out the people who lived in that house before us had painted the dining room black so they can hold seances. I had my worst encounter when I was 10. My family gave the kids chores the day they turned 10. I ended up with the kitchen as my chore. One thing to remember is that the dining room table faced the doorway of the kitchen. The day I had my worst encounter, I fell asleep before cleaning the kitchen. When I woke up I remembered I didn't clean the kitchen. I freaked out and checked the time. It was around 2 or 3 a.m. I ran downstairs with my phone in my hand. I started to play music. I didn't have headphones, so I was just playing music at full volume, which wasn't really loud since it was an older phone. I walked from place to place in the kitchen, cleaning it. I walked from the fridge to the sink to wash the dishes, and out of the corner of my eye I saw someone sitting on the bench. The bench for the dining room table was set up so when you sit at it you face the wall. So I only saw the back of the person's head. I pushed it off thinking it was my little sister or my big brother, and I started to wash the dishes since that was the last thing I had to do. After I was finished with the dishes I looked back at the table, and someone was still sitting at it. I thought it was my little sister because of the height of the person, so I yelled her name a few times. It didn't say anything, it just looked at me. It looked human, but it wasn't human. It had no eyes, just black holes. I was frozen in fear. I felt tears fall down my cheeks, but I couldn't move at all. Yes, I have seen things like it before, but none of them have moved to look at me. They typically stayed in the same place, but this one was different. It disappeared like the other did, but with the other things I saw I never froze, but this one was different. After I could move I grabbed my phone and ran up the stairs to my room and turned on the TV after I got on my bed. I had nightmares about the thing for years after the interaction. I still sometimes have nightmares about that creature till this day. My parents live in a community in the desert of the southwestern U.S. After graduating college, I spent some time living at their house, going through the misery of unemployment and applying for jobs. Being away from the city, their neighborhood can get really dark at night, especially when there's clouds or no moon. This neighborhood has had some issues with the paranormal. People have posted on the Facebook community page asking if anyone has had strange experiences, with the comments on the posts blowing up with people sharing encounters. Dogs barking and growling at entities not visible in the house. Silverware and dishes going missing over time only to later find it mysteriously in their attic. Shadow figures, etc. One late night, I was alone at their house watching TV. My parents were gone on vacation back east. My parents have this odd cat who is the living definition of scaredy cat. Even though it enjoys going outside, the cat won't go unless you're out there with it. If you go back inside, the cat will immediately be cowering in the windows begging to let it in. As I was watching TV, the cat comes darting past my feet to the sliding glass door that opens to the backyard. She was in the low sneaky position cats get when they see something they want to hunt or attack. She was frozen and fixated on something in the back corner of the yard. Out of curiosity of what the cat was seeing, I opened the sliding glass door and let it out. The cat immediately runs up to the bushes in the corner of the yard and stops still in the low sneaky position. I walk outside wondering what in the world is going on. This was one of those dark nights without a moon in the sky, making it difficult to see anything except the outline of the bushes. Suddenly, an orb of bright yellow light flies out of the bushes about the size of a softball. The orb goes up and over the cinder block wall into the neighbor's yard. Both me and the cat jump out of fright. I run back inside, being filled with the familiar dreaded feeling of being around something paranormal. Collecting my courage, I grab a flashlight and go back out to see if anything was there and to find the cat. I go back to the corner of the backyard and see nothing in the bushes where the orb came out of. I search the whole yard and can't find the cat, who is also too little to jump the cinder block walls. The whole time being outside again felt wrong, like I shouldn't be there. I went back inside and waited a couple hours until the cat showed up in the window, still in a state of panic. I knew I saw something with this experience, because it was this weird little cat who brought my attention to it. A few days later, my parents are back from their vacation and I tell them my weird experience. This kind of freaked out my mom, who has read the community Facebook posts about the neighborhood having paranormal activity. Going to bed, I suddenly see a bunch of police cars show up outside the neighbor's house and our house. Police are getting out with their guns drawn. I alert my parents, and we lurked in the windows wondering what's going on. I see the next door neighbor girl outside talking to the police. Nothing really happened except the police searching her house. The next day, my dad calls our neighbor asking if everything was okay and if they could help. Apparently, their daughter is home alone while they were away. She was walking in the hallway when she saw this black shadowy figure in the house at the end of the hallway. She screamed and ran for her phone and called the police. The police searched the house and the surrounding area, but found nobody or any evidence of a break-in. This was the neighbor's house that the orb flew into the yard of a few nights prior.